I'm gonna try to pronounce it. What is exactly an ethnographer?
Oh,
Did I do it?
yeah. Ethno meaning people, and graph as in graphy, like looking, tracking things. Um, so basically, what you would think of as the a simpler version of the ethnographer studying people in a structured way would be kind of like an anthropologist. Um, the person who puts on the colonial era, like hat, khaki shorts,
Mm-hmm.
has a British accent, and goes lives with the natives,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of an old-fashioned, problematic thing. But the idea you go into a community. Margaret Mead is a famous slash infamous example. You go live amongst the people. Um, I think there's this conceit that you become like them,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then from the inside out, you can describe who they are and what is important to them, and get a sense of their values and things. So, an ethnographer, I think, is a more modern city version. I don't know about city, but I think ethnography is pretty popular in academia these days as an approach. A lot of sociology practice would be, talking about ethnography. Ethnography is actually popular in business these days. The ethnographic approach, um, basically, going into a community, or you know, getting the information out of them in an organic way as possible, um, is kind of the way of doing things. So a business oriented ethnographer would, instead of giving out a standard survey, which is kind of, not very revealing, you might go hang out with, just kind of shadow the person in their native environment. Like a female ethnographer might hang out with a bunch of high school kids to see how they use their cell phones. And instead of asking them a bunch of questions, would be like, just let me just hang out with you. I'll stay at your house. I'll be around when you wake up in the morning, which sounds kind of weird, but um, I'll watch what you do. I'll watch you. I'll follow you to school. I'll shadow you all day long, and actually see what you do with your cell phone. And the way that's more interesting is, instead of giving people a bunch of questions, how many hours a day do you use your cell phone? No, no, no. You might find out things like, list the 5 ways you use your cell phone. The problem is, if you or your smartphone, if you do that, you'll get lots of answers that are kind of biased towards how people think they should use their phone, or
Mm.
how people think other people use their phone. But what you'll find is that, if I can turn this around slowly enough, um, the phone, when it's not on, is like a black surface. It's like a mirror. And you might find that people actually use their phone as a mirror more than they even know. So they probably
Ah.
wouldn't even think to put that onto
Hmm.
a survey question. And the survey, questionnaire maker wouldn't even think to make that a question. Um, you might use it as a display for your, most precious little artworks or whatever. Um, but you find out things that you don't know, you didn't know about the thing. Um,
Ah.
and a good ethnographer can get into a community or interface with a person or people and find out all those deep dive things.
Ah.
Um, Basically, studying people closely. So, an ethnographic approach, a good example was a famous paper of a guy who went to black barbershops, and instead of going around asking the barbers, what do you find to be the most appealing aspect of this community that you're part of? Describe the rules of the barbershop. What is a barbershop like? Give me adjectives. They didn't do that. Just went and stayed at the barbershop all day long and just kind of was a fly on the wall. Um, so that is very revealing. Nowadays, businesses pay a lot of money for this more ethnographic kind of data, because um, if you remember the theoretical ethnographer who shadows, sleeps not sleeps with, but shadows this high school kid, does observes everything they do. You can imagine that kind of stuff is not just 2 hours sitting in a coffee shop
Mm.
filling out a questionnaire, but it's like 12, 24 hours of work from a highly trained person, probably with a whole bunch of letters behind their name, and that's going to be really expensive. So
Mm.
nowadays, companies pay thousands of dollars to do studies with people, um, real close studies. That's very revealing for business.